In a world decimated by a nameless and enigmatic virus that has claimed the lives of all humans, one man remains standing. His name is Philip Miller, and he has endured a year of solitary existence, embarking on a journey across America in a desperate quest to find any surviving souls. Philip's odyssey takes him to every state, where he delivers somber announcements to empty cities and indulges in thievery, pilfering valuable artifacts and priceless paintings from museums. Philip decides to return to his hometown, Tucson, in a last-ditch effort to locate another living being. As a final attempt to find a shred of humanity, he inscribes "Alive in Tucson" on every available billboard throughout the city. Arriving in Tucson, Philip retreats to his shabby apartment, gathering essential supplies before settling into a gated community in the more affluent part of the city. He claims the largest house as his new residence and begins the process of adorning it with a vast collection of famous paintings, a mat from the White House, a dinosaur skull, Academy Awards, and numerous other priceless artifacts, altogether valued in the billions of dollars. In this new existence, Philip finds himself recklessly shedding the societal constraints of his past life, embracing a life without witnesses. He plunges into a routine of uninhibited impulses, such as destroying cans in a store and amassing a vast collection of adult films for solitary entertainment. To ward off loneliness, he concocts a variety of activities, from playing racquetball with himself to using lamps and aquariums as makeshift bowling pins, and even staging car crashes for amusement. His birthday serves as a poignant reminder of all the aspects of life he failed to appreciate when it was still within his grasp. The grand mansion he once inhabited has deteriorated into a wasteland, strewn with plastic and cans, remnants of his reckless exploits. There is no longer a reason for him to tidy up, as the absence of others renders cleanliness a futile endeavor. Basic necessities, such as running water and functioning plumbing, are sacrificed as Philip adopts a more primitive way of life. He uses the house's pool as a toilet, and his bathroom becomes cluttered with plastic bottles. In a surreal twist, he fills a children's pool with margaritas, using it both for bathing and indulging his alcoholic inclinations. A turning point arrives when Philip, driven to the brink of despair, ventures to a bar. There he personifies balls by drawing faces on them, endowing each with a name and personality, allowing himself to engage in pseudo-conversations to combat loneliness. His descent into madness escalates when he takes one of these balls, named Gary, to a clothing store and indulges in a one-sided crush on a mannequin. This bizarre encounter leads to a critical incident in which the mannequin's arm breaks, pushing Philip over the edge. Convinced that he no longer desires to endure his solitary existence, Philip embarks on a fateful journey to a nearby hill, contemplating a grim act of self-destruction. Before setting out on his harrowing path, he bids an emotional farewell to his ball friends, vowing to remember them for eternity. With determination, he accelerates his car towards the hill's precipice, poised to carry out his unthinkable plan. However, just as he is on the brink of impact, a sight on the horizon catches his attention. In the distance, he spots a plume of smoke rising, and this anomaly halts his fatal course. He steers his car towards the source of the smoke, leading him to a trailer that is undeniably inhabited. Engulfed in a heady mix of emotions, Philip approaches the bra and is so overwhelmed by its significance that he loses consciousness. When he awakens, he finds himself in the presence of a woman, but she is far from the dreamlike beauty he had envisioned. She is performing CPR to revive him. The shock of seeing another human after so long leaves both Philip and the woman bewildered. Philip inquires about the alluring woman he saw in his dream. However, the woman rebuffs his query and instead directs his attention to the more immediate concern of his wet underpants. It turns out that he had involuntarily urinated during his unconscious state. Philip's pride initially compels him to deny this, and he defensively contends that he was swimming from the front earlier, leading to the wet underpants. Yet, ultimately, he concedes his embarrassment. As both of them begin to recover from the initial shock, they exchange introductions. The woman's name is Carol, and she was once an analyst before the virus decimated humanity. She, too, has been traversing the desolate landscape of America in search of any signs of life. Her journey led her to the "Alive in Tucson" sign, which ultimately drew her to the city. While Philip had yearned for the companionship of a woman, he finds himself less enthused than expected by Carol's presence. The two are an odd couple, and their initial interactions are marked by her incessant correction of his grammar, a lack of understanding of his jokes, and a propensity to engage in irrelevant chatter. After a considerable conversation, they decide to make their way to the grocery store. Their journey is fraught with tension, as Carol insists on following traffic rules despite the absence of other vehicles. Their disagreement over obeying stop signs leads to a heated argument, with Philip advocating for a more relaxed approach given the circumstances. Nevertheless, Carol remains unwavering in her commitment to upholding the rules and order. Upon reaching the grocery store, tensions escalate, with Philip deciding to park in a handicapped spot, much to Carol's chagrin. Eventually, Philip resorts to a drastic measure, driving the vehicle straight into the store, leading to an exasperated confrontation between the two. Carol proceeds to provide a tour of Philip's home, and her revulsion is palpable as she witnesses the squalor in which he resides. His two swimming pools, one filled with feces and the other with garbage, elicit her disapproval, and she accuses him of theft in his acquisition of the paintings, despite his argument that they no longer have rightful owners. By the conclusion of the house tour, Philip, seemingly exasperated by Carol's presence, suggests that she return to her campsite. The following morning, Philip awakens to find Carol embarking on an unsolicited cleanup of his abode. She insists that they must acquire gardening and cleaning supplies from the store to transition toward living like civilized human beings. During the nighttime, Philip seeks solace with his ball friends, venting his frustrations about Carol, despite knowing her for just a single day. He likens their relationship to that of a married couple in dire need of a divorce. The following morning brings further challenges for Philip when Carol takes up residence in the house next door. He attempts to shoo her away, but Carol's unwavering stubbornness prevails. She even confronts him, questioning whether he is uncomfortable being seen naked. In response, Philip spontaneously removes his pants. Carol initiates a candid conversation, addressing a topic that lingers as an unspoken elephant in the room: reproduction. She harbors the belief that they are the chosen ones, entrusted with the responsibility of repopulating the earth. Philip, however, asserts that he wouldn't engage in any intimate activity with her, even if she were the last woman on earth, a factual statement in their exceptional circumstance. In the next scene, Philip is situated in his outdoor toilet when Carol approaches him, endeavoring to enlist his assistance in acquiring running water for their home. Her aim is to cultivate tomatoes and other fruits. When Philip declines her request, she resorts to an attempt at bribery, offering fresh tomatoes, but he remains resolute. Carol discovers the limits of such bribery, realizing that it's futile to bribe a man who uses a diving board as his personal toilet. Nonetheless, in the darkness of night, he surreptitiously infiltrates her garden and consumes her vegetables. When she confronts him the following morning, he continues to deny responsibility for the theft. Undeterred by his lack of cooperation, Carol continues her quest to bring order and decency to their lives. In a gesture of desperation, she commences constructing an outdoor toilet in a fountain, mimicking Philip's use of the swimming pool as a toilet. She concludes that they may not be the chosen ones, but rather the forgotten ones, individuals without purpose, incapable of laying the foundation for an entire human civilization when they cannot even establish a functioning toilet in their million-dollar mansions. Prompted by his feelings for Carol's plight, Philip orchestrates a plan to secure water for her garden, which brings genuine happiness to her for the first time. In appreciation, she invites him to dinner, and Philip savors an organic meal after a prolonged period of isolation. The topic of sex arises during their conversation, with Philip indicating his readiness to engage in intimacy. To his astonishment, Carol rebuffs his advances, emphasizing that she will only do so after marriage. Philip initially laughs at what he perceives as a joke, but Carol stands firm in her seriousness. In the end, they decide to wed the following day. The subsequent scene unveils the day of their wedding. Carol diligently prepares decorations and a cake for the occasion, assigning Philip the task of acquiring rings for the ceremony. However, he opts instead to throw a bachelorette party for his ball buddies, setting fire to random objects in a parking lot, even bidding farewell to his beloved mannequin, expressing that she will always hold a special place in his heart. He eventually arrives at the church for the wedding, where they exchange brief vows and prepare to exchange rings. To her dismay, Carol discovers that he has not procured the rings, realizing that her efforts in the relationship have been lopsided. As a result, she calls off the wedding. In an attempt to mend the rift, Philip knocks on her door, seeking to reconcile. When she remains unresponsive, he resorts to breaking down her front door with a hammer and enters her home. To his astonishment, he finds that she has redecorated the house, complete with a cake adorned with his likeness. Overcome with remorse for his actions, he offers an apology, revealing that he doesn't particularly appreciate her personality or culinary skills. Despite these shortcomings, he acknowledges that he is grateful for her presence, recognizing that without her, he would not have survived. With this newfound appreciation, Philip takes Carol out for a special experience, leading them to a jewelry shop, where Carol selects a selection of rings. They proceed to hold their wedding. In the ensuing nighttime scene, they consummate their marriage, albeit with an unexpected twist. As they engage in intimacy, Carol's incessant chatter throughout the night results in bizarre and seemingly inappropriate remarks, which she believes to be alluring. In a departure from their past interactions, the next morning sees Philip and Carol engaging in a lighthearted game of racquetball. Philip is initially bracing himself for Carol's nagging, but she surprises him by participating in the game. The rest of the day is spent engaging in the unconventional and thrilling activities that Philip typically enjoys, from crafting fireproof suits and setting each other ablaze to running a bulldozer over beer cans and visiting Philip's ex-girlfriend, a mannequin. Carol converses with the mannequin and ultimately physically reprimands her for making advances toward her husband. Reflecting on their shared experiences, Philip finds himself content with the outcome of their marriage, despite the unorthodox circumstances. However, their lives take an unexpected turn when they collide with a limousine at a junction. As a strikingly beautiful woman emerges from the limousine, Philip's initial happiness with his wife gives way to regret. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.